Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Saturday afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well. It looks like we still have some people populating into the webinar. We're so excited to have everybody here today. I am Larry Laboe. I'm the Executive Director at New Filmmakers LA. I'm also a board member at the BRIC Foundation. I hope everyone's been having an amazing morning. I think there's something crazy, like 30 conversations today. So there's a lot of things that you can be attending. So we appreciate you being here for our film festival and programs conversation. And with that, I'm so excited to welcome all of our panelists on screen. They're gonna reveal themselves right now. We have Xavier and Kelly and Jandiz.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on, everyone?
So I would love to start out with having each of you introduce yourselves. Xavier's obviously here as a creator, but Kelly and Jandiz are here as people who work at organizations, festivals, programs. So Jandiz, we'll start with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. Larry, thanks for inviting me. Hi, everybody from around the world or wherever you're gathering from. I'm Jandiz Estrada Cardoso. I'm the director of the episodic programs at Sundance Institute. Hi.
And Jandiz, tell us a little bit about what the Sundance Institute does aside from the Sundance Film Festival.
Yes, because a lot of people don't know that there's an institute. The institute was started first 40 years ago by Robert Redford as a place where independent artists could come and like live and gather on the mountain with professionals and learn the tricks of the trade without the pressure of Hollywood beating down their throats, and just immersing yourself in an artistic, altruistic space. We have a lot of labs that are for directors, writers, TV writers, screenwriters, producers, documentarians. We have an Indigenous lab. These labs are usually the entry point for emerging artists to get their feet wet and find mentors and access points into the industry that will hopefully be a launch pad to get them to the festival and make a very public international introduction to their voice and their work, and hopefully a meaningful, prolific message to the world.
Amazing. And Kelly, we'll go to you next.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm the managing director of the Canadian Film Institute here in Ottawa, Canada. And our biggest event is the Ottawa International Animation Festival. So I don't know how many budding animators are out there, animation producers, but we're actually one of the largest film festivals of our kind in the world. So every year we get about 2,000 entries from around the world, and we pick about 150 to screen. We also have a business conference called the Animation Conference, which runs the first 3 days of our event. And there's lots of opportunity for networking and pitching and professional development. So yeah, it's a great introductory, I mean, for all levels, but especially I think for people breaking into the business, there's lots of opportunities to learn and get your name out there. So
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kelly and Xavier. Last but not least.
Of course, of course. Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to be here. Good to be helping out. My name is Xavier Burgin. I'm a writer-director from USC School of Cinematic Arts. Just to give you a little about me, I'm a staff writer on the show Heels. I recently wrote a horror feature for Crip TV WWE based on their Undertaker and Kane IP. I wrote a sci-fi poly for Justin Simeon's Culture Machine and Paramount. I was nominated for an Emmy directing on the BET Plus show Giants, and I also directed AMC's award-winning documentary Horror Noir: A History of Black Horror. Currently, I'm in the Stars Take the Lead writing program, which is really, really dope. And I've also been through a good amount of different programs that folks might be interested in knowing, like the Sundance Lab, Ryan Murphy's directing program, Paramount Viewfinders program, Ride Like Rise Fellowship, plus repped over the CAA and Brillstein. So good to be here.
So Xavier, what you're saying is I definitely have the right group of people to talk about festivals and programs for sure.
100%. I've definitely been through both on both sides, being at festivals, going through programs, learning like the necessities of it. So I'm just here and just super, super down to open up and answer any questions on it.
Amazing. Yeah. So the first thing I would love to ask, and I think probably a lot of the audience are curious about this as well, is your viewpoint on everybody's viewpoint on what is the difference between a film festival and an accelerator program or an incubator program or a mentorship program. So I'd love to hear everybody's take on what kind of the differences are and what some of the similarities are as well.
Well, I can jump in. I mean, I think we run a lot of several different film festivals. And I think with a film festival, it's really sort of your foot in the door. Like animation festival, anybody can enter. There's no entry fee. You can get yourself out there, you can come to our events. There's, you're just meeting people and you're networking, and you never know what's going to happen, like you might meet somebody who completely changes your life. So it's a first step, I think, to getting your name out there. And yeah, to me, I wish we ran a program like Sundance's, but that's kind of taking it to the next step, I think, isn't it?
And Kelly, for you, how is it focusing specifically on a certain type of filmmaking, such as animation? What helps you as an organization really stand out, and why do you feel people in the animation space really come to Ottawa as a hub to kick off their careers, network?
Yeah, animation is definitely a little bit different to the live action world. They're a species unto themselves, and yeah, they just love coming out. They work so hard on films for months at a time, and then the animation festival's a time to socialize and show your work. And we have a lot of events that people are just meeting with other like-minded individuals. So Ottawa is really known for showing highly original pieces of work. For instance, years ago, Igor Kovalyev showed his film Hen and His Wife at Ottawa, and it was picked up by Klasky Chupo. The founder of Klasky Chupo saw it, and it influenced, Rugrats, and Igor was on The Simpsons, and just that kind of like cross-pollination and bringing people together, getting those creatives in front of producers. That's what makes us unique. It's definitely a fertile ground for inspiration.
Amazing. And Jandiz, what about you? What are some of the differences between some of the labs at Sundance and the festival, and how can people really take advantage of those programs?
I think people need to realize that every festival typically wants to create opportunities for the filmmakers of the next generation, right? Or even TV festivals, right? So they don't want you guys just to come and explore and watch this great work and celebrate and be inspired by it. But the Institute side is completely dedicated to artists. And we say artists at Sundance. I used to work in corporate world. We used to call you guys content creators, right? Which is really insulting now, because we refer to you as creatives first, and we want you to know that as a director or a writer, and as I mentioned, composer, animator, and whatnot, you need support that you don't have access to. And if there isn't opportunities opening up the door for you, how else are you going to break in? So this is where we are saying, come break in, get your foot in the door, and then hold that door open for the next person, which luckily for us, it has happened. We've had a lot of alumni from the festivals, Barry Jenkins and Chloe Zhao and Lulu Wong, and more recent people that really want to come back and return to the space that gave them the biggest support. So it's not just introducing you to the mentors or agents or producers or funders that can give you the money to make the project that you've been, grinding at on page for months, but also to give you the support and the confidence sometimes that you're not getting wherever you are at your space and time. So if you're in college currently, or if you're in high school currently for the labs, you can be 18 and have no experience whatsoever, but you have a story. You could submit it to us and it could rise all the way to the top and ultimately get shown and featured maybe as a short, and then at the short at the festival you might get the attention and it could get nominated for an Oscar. It could go a very, very long way, but there's really no restrictions and no requirements to have graduated from a program or to have worked prior, or to even be in the United States. You could apply. We have international fellows around the world that we want to support. I hope that that's useful to know that you don't just go to the festival and get the networking to be a part of the institution prior and sort of have that privacy while you create is very, very important. And you should be looking for those opportunities first.
Yeah, I love one of the benefits that you just outlined, and I do want to get more into some of the benefits of these programs, but I know one of the things you mentioned was that self-assurance, that confidence boost that I think people often forget. These festivals and programs, they really motivate. That's a benefit of it. It's the motivation to keep going, the validation to say, you know what, someone is recognizing my work, someone wants to support my work, I have to keep on creating. And I want to talk some more about some of the benefits of the program. Obviously, you know, there's education, there's visibility, there's relationship building. So Xavier is going through a program currently and has gone through a number of the programs. So Xavier, I'd love to jump over to you and first hear, you know, what has your experience been like in terms of the difference between festivals and programs, and what have some of the benefits been for you as a creator from each one of those systems?
Most Def, happy to talk about it. So when I do want to say like festivals and writing programs, directing programs, you know, I've been through them. I've been through dubbing programs for Netflix and different sites for where it's been done by the Institute, it's been done by a company, or it's been done by a writer's group. Festivals, when I think of it as a creator, it's there like once you have something tangible, you've made something, you can bring it to the festival. That allows you to get your name known by folks. Maybe you meet someone who wants to do something bigger with it. Maybe you can actually get connections, a lot of times connections with other filmmakers who will end up being your peers for a good amount of time. And I think that's really the big piece on that side of getting exposure for yourself. If you're able to get into bigger festivals, like all festivals matter, but like getting to a specific festival, specifically like you've done animation, like maybe it's the one you're looking for where maybe you see someone that's on the panel or someone that's doing there, you're trying to like get them to specifically see your work and see where it goes. But in a lot of ways, doing the festival on that side is one in itself, getting to show your work, but also a little bit of a gamble of who's going to see it and how it can elevate you. Where I flip it on the other side, and I think like programs specifically, programs are there for you to make or discover or build something tangible usually out of it. Like if you're going into a program, a lot of times you're going to get mentorship. You're going to be sitting down with a bunch of people to meet with them, though you can do that at festivals, but it tends to be a little bit more specific. And then usually programs will have you doing something where you're directing something. Maybe you're making a short. Maybe if you're in almost in any writing program, such as Stars, take the lead one right now. And this one I'm doing a spec, and another one I've written my own piece and brought it in and then just had work done on it. So I really think the biggest distinction for me is where festivals are there to show off your work, make connections, and you can do it in both. Programs usually are really, really about, okay, they've noticed you, they've selected you for something that you've done, and it's time for you either to build on it and or create something new and more that elevates yourself through that understanding. So let me know if that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw Gustavo has put a question in the chat. I do want to encourage all the attendees, definitely feel free to chime in the chat if you do have questions, and I'll do my best to get to those. I'm personally gonna pop in a link for Gustavo and everybody else here. We've assembled a list of programs and grants and opportunities that hopefully will be helpful to everybody here. And if any of our panelists towards the end can, you know, also pop in any links or resources that they know of. And please, with any questions you have, feel free to chime in at any point, and I'll try to get to those. The next thing I want to talk about is preparing for festivals and preparing for programs. I'm going to start with Jandiz, and I want to talk specifically about preparing for a lab. And oftentimes, you know, with a lab, you're preparing with unproduced work, right? So generally a writing sample. So I want to talk about the application process, a typical application process. What does that look like? And aside from a super talented candidate who's a great writer, how do people stand out?
So right now, I'm going to offer a very, very exclusive extension code because my lab just closed. But I want to make sure that anybody that's watching here today can still apply. My lab is the Episodic Television Writers Lab for Sundance, and you can apply on Film Freeway. I'm going to give this extension code out right now, and all you need is an original pilot. So if you have an idea, if it's a comedy, like around 30 pages, if it's a 1 hour, maybe around 60 pages, and then there's some very, very important personal statements and questions that we ask. This is how you stand out. You come in and you tell me why this story is personal to you. What is your connection to this community? Why is it so meaningful and necessary now to be told? And why does it need to live as an extended, open-ended exploration? And it's not just a feature. We get a lot of stories that make sensational movies, but they're very close-ended. So you need to explain to me why you're the one and only person who can tell this long, ongoing, drawn-out, either mystery or drama or love story or comedy that's in the workplace that is very, very relatable and universal. That's what really stands out as your personal statement. So I just put the extension code in the chat. And I also want to plug that if you're a feature writer, that the feature screenwriting development track at Sundance is going to open April 11th through May 16th. So look out for that as well on the Sundance website. And there's one more lab that's open right now. It's specific to Indigenous writers from tribes and nations of California. I may have mentioned we have Indigenous lab. They're going to Hawaii for a Polynesian lab. We have a trans intensive lab coming up. So if you search on that Sundance.org website, you can get in and look at some deadlines. But the most important thing is to let us know why you in those essay questions.
So I want to stay here for a minute, Jandiz. You said two really interesting things. One thing that you said in terms of relevancy is why you and this story, and why are you the one to tell it? And I feel, Xavier, we've had some similar discussions over the past couple of weeks in the STARS program. How many times have you found, Xavier, as a creator, in regards to the why you question, that a job or a writing assignment or a directing assignment has been relevant for you as a creator and attributes of yourself or experience, lived experience of yourself? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. So, one of the things that has really been a big piece for me that I dig into a lot is actually restate the question one more time for me so I can just absolutely make sure I give you the correct answer of what I'm thinking about.
Opportunities that have come to you where definitely your writing has stood out, your talent has stood out, but your lived experience or that sort of why you moment really hit and you got that job.
Yes. Okay, great. So absolutely, I can talk to you about that. So one of the things that intrinsically about me, I grew up, down south, Mississippi, Alabama, like, red barns, all that type of stuff you would think about. Like that was my life growing up, like, and that's been a part of me ever since from being down south. And a part of that almost always comes through in the work that I speak on, but it's also the thing I know the most. So many of my stories I can just pull from my life and what I went through at that time. And what was super interesting about it is you really have to be authentic. You really have to dig into it because you never know when that can make a difference. So the example I have is I wrote a script that was like, about down south, about me and my boys just doing our thing. And, I let a couple of folks read it, but they're like, and I put it away for a very long time. And then the star show Heels was coming for a season 2. They were looking for more people. And my reps had asked, like, do you have something else you want to check? Because we have your sample, we have the one that's the feature that's really, really strong, but anything else? And I was like, well, I have this one that's more dealing with misunderstandings, but I'm not sure if folks really felt it or not. They checked it out, they were like, whoa, okay, cool, do a little fix up on it, and we're gonna send this. And they literally sent it like directly to my showrunner, Michael O'Malley, on Heels. And I didn't think anything of it, but it was me just being honest, me writing how I liked and what I enjoyed. And literally, Mike got it. He was laughing, sending pictures of what I was writing in it. Sat down with him on a Friday. I was like, okay, that's cool. We'll see what happens. That was great talking. And on Monday, I'm in my first writer's room. So, it's that's the thing that really reminds me on a regular basis to, like, write what you love, write what you enjoy, write where you're from, and dig into those stories. Like, enjoy, if you have other stuff that you like, of course, but don't forget to do that as well, because people can really feel and resonate when it feels like you're writing from the heart, you're writing the pieces that you love, and doing that. Like, you never know when things are going to happen, because so much in the industry can be a toss-up. But it was quite literally me, a creative, meeting another creative who felt like I was someone that reminded them of themselves, that they wanted to pick up. And the next week, I was on a show. So yeah, that's the one I really always keep in mind, that, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, 100%. And I wanted to bring it up because I find so often in these kinds of general meetings, or when somebody's reading a script, it's almost like that has gotten to them because you have been endorsed, you have been amplified, you have been put in the spotlight in some way, whether it's through a festival or a referral or a program. But it's that moment that just really clicks, where it's like, this is the right person for the right spot, with the right voice, with the right background at the right time. And I think it's just really important, especially as we're talking about writing, to really let our audience know about those kinds of experiences as well, and bringing it back to what Jandiz was talking about. And Jandiz, I will close that thread with you. I'm going to come back to you with how I want to rethread that part to you. But before I do, Kelly, I wanted to ask you, in terms of animation, it's a little bit different in terms of the innovation, right? The innovation of something new, right, through animation. And that really oftentimes relates to the characters in the world that's going to come to life on screen through animation. So what traits do you look for in somebody's application process to programs that deal with animation?
Well, it's funny. It's very much the same thing. When we're sifting through all of these films, like, so many are derivative of other shows or copying styles. But the ones that really stand out are the ones that come from original place. You can tell from lived experience. That's gonna make your entry shine. You've got to come from within yourself and really express yourself within the entries. And that's for the entry process, but also, like, we have a pitching contest, pitch this. And, oftentimes, people, you really have to embrace all of your characters and your world, and really believe in it. It should come from yourself. And when you're up there in front of a panel of people asking you questions about your project, you're going to get some hard questions. And, if you really believe in that world and know everything about it, you're going to really stand out. And yeah, I think it definitely comes from doing something that's close to your heart.
Amazing. So I'm going to circle back, Kelly, with you too, because I want to talk about work samples after this next question. But just to close that loop with Jandiz, one of the things you mentioned was different kinds of programs and communities that Sundance focuses on. So specifically, you had mentioned the upcoming trans program. You mentioned, the programs to support Latinx creators. I know you just popped in the chat. There's a new Mexico City edition of Sundance happening, which is incredible. I want to talk about referrals. How often does Sundance go out to peer organizations or to alumni of the festival to solicit referrals or nominations of people for programs? Because I've seen that getting more and more popular as a filter over the years, and I want to see how, if at all, Sundance taps into that.
Yeah, we go, at least for my program, we'll go out about a month before our submission window opens. And I think all of our programs do. Sundance has a list of allied orgs. So for Asian American artists, we reach out to CAPE. For obviously queer artists, we're going to reach out to GLAAD and to Outfest. If it's for Latinx artists, you know, we're going to reach out to Latinx House and LALIF and NHMC and NALIP. So we have a big wide reach, and it's typically at least once a year for each of those. And we have applications opening almost every month. And then we also will share that with all of the other leaders of the programs at networks and studios. So NBC Launch, or the Universal's DreamWorks program, the Warner Media Discovery, ABC, also the Doris Duke Foundation, Pillars for Muslim writers and directors. There's a lot out there that we make sure respectabilities, like there's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's perfect. And I really want to flag that for the audience, because I want the audience to understand how, when we talk about relationship building and we talk about networking and we talk about the ecosystem, how important the relationship is between festivals and programs and organizations, and how oftentimes you really are building advocacy for yourself through your relationships. And I brought it up because of exactly what you said, you know, how one opportunity with new filmmakers or Now Leap or CAPE or Black House may turn into opening a door at Sundance, or may turn in an opportunity with BRIC Foundation, may turn into opening a door at Ottawa Animation Festival, and how important it is to just really have that frame of mind. And so before I go back to Kelly, Xavier, I want to see if there's been any threads like that for you, where a relationship has parlayed years down the line
Yes.
into an opportunity.
Yes, let's talk. Like, I'm gonna go right back to the same one of getting staffed. Like, literally, Jade, his name is Jade, such an amazing exec. I love him. And I met Jade all the way back when I was at USC in the film school. Now it's like back in like 2014, 2015. We had kept up for a long time. Of course, he always checked in on my stuff, checked in on my work, how I'm doing, saying, hey, I love what you're doing, love how you're doing this stuff. We gonna figure something out. We gonna figure something out. And of course, I'm like, man, I hope we do. I hope we do. But of course, like, the thing about it is you never know how connections can work, how it's so important to be good and nice to people no matter what, how not to burn bridges, because we kept up for forever. And it wasn't that he absolutely loved me as a person, but he just wasn't in a position to be able to help me in a way that he could at a later date that I'm going to say. So I kept pushing, I kept working, I kept writing, kept directing stuff, always just running around in the fog, trying to always find the next thing, because that's all you can truly do a lot of times in the industry, just keep on going until the next thing happens. So all of this happens. Everything I just told you about with Michael O'Malley, my showrunner, and getting on heel, all of that happens. He wants me, but even with him wanting me, there's still more people that, you know, have to say yes. You know, there's more people above that gotta say yes, not because they don't believe in you or don't think you're talented, but they are trying to make sure that you don't walk into this room and blow it up. You never know. So with that, all of this happens, and then the planets align. And this exec that I've known since USC is one of the head execs of Red Stars. And he is there. He's like, yo, he gave me a call, like, as this was all going. He said, hey man, we're here, I got you. And I'm on the thing. So I'm also saying this is like the connections you make. Like, yes, it's about writing, it's about making your work, but people have to like you. They want to believe in you. And you'd be surprised how many people do want to help you, but it just takes them finally getting in the right place, right time, right planets aligning spot to pull you up. But that also has to come with you still just working until that happens. So that's really my anecdote in terms of, like, you know, the importance of networking in almost all these spaces.
All right. So, and Xavier, thank you for answering all those questions in the in the chat. I just saw in the Q&A section, you've answered a lot of questions, so we appreciate it. So I promised to come back to Kelly, and Kelly to just follow up on the work sample stuff. I wanted to ask you a deeper question about produced work samples. So I want to talk about what does someone who has a short piece of animation that's been produced do for them when they're applying for a program? Is that a make or break to get into a development program or a marketplace program at Ottawa International Animation Festival, or is that not important?
Yeah, definitely at our business conference, that can be key. You know, when we have people in the pitching programs, it's like Xavier said, it's building trust. People need to trust you and know you're going to do a good job on the project, and having, you know, done some work in the past is definitely a help there. So yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think people do build a body of work too. We try and take every entry as, you know, fresh, you know, looking with fresh eyes. But yeah, definitely each work you produce helps, you know, build your skills as an artist and build your reputation.
Great. And Jandiz, for the lab at Sundance, is that a part of your process at all? Do you look to see if an applicant has tried to make anything on their own that's a writer, if they've tried to make a webisode, or they've tried to make a short as a proof of concept?
Yeah, so typically in all the applications for the labs, there is the opportunity for you to drop in a link, because this could be a script that you're writing based on a short, or maybe a web series or a sketch, or something else that you created, maybe a play that you wrote. So we want to know if you have any footage that you want to share, that you, let's say if you're a comedy writer, you have this comedic voice and you want to actually give us a taste of your style and your range. And so there's opportunity for you to drop that in there. I'll watch the links. I love people that supply links for me to watch. It's a harder, more tangible example of your style and the type of drama or comedy you're trying to convey.
And do you and this is a question for everybody, Xavier, from your standpoint as a creator, Kelly and Jandiz from running programs and working at festivals, what does produced work tell you about somebody's ability to build relationships and collaborate? Is that taken into consideration at all versus somebody who just comes to you with an idea or with a script?
Yeah, I know in animation, they'll often, you know, there's lots of partnerships that have to happen for an animated film to get made. So, you know, you may see them working with private companies or National Film Board or, you know, different other artists, you know, and it definitely says something that they're able to collaborate and work as a team. So.
Is it fun? Oh, please, Janice, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love seeing that. But as you mentioned, Larry, as indicators of collaboration, I also love seeing people from different walks of life. Maybe they were a home care nurse or a hospice nurse, or maybe they were formerly in the military. That speaks a lot to how you collaborate as well. And it says to me, you're not only one that wants to come together and share knowledge and support, but you also have a creative juice that you want to pour out for everyone. So yes, the produced works say something, but if not, don't let that be a deterrent for you to share with me how well you've collaborated. Maybe you worked at Boys and Girls Club like I did. Like maybe you volunteered and taught improv as a college, like, you know, side hustle. Maybe you bag groceries at Trader Joe's. Like, I want to know. All those things tell me your level of humility, your level of drive, and those are valuable characteristics too.
Yeah. So Vincent has a question in the chat that I'll just address really quick. Vincent, Jandiz's code gives you extended deadline access to submit to the Sundance Episodic Lab. So the deadline is already passed, but that code will let you through to still submit. And you can find the code up in the webinar chat. And then you can find the link there, which is that Film Freeway link. So Xavier, I'm going to stay on you for a moment. And I want to talk about how these opportunities have, of course, built and led you to your next opportunity, and specifically with representation. So somewhere along the line after film school and doing these programs, you landed at CAA, one of the largest talent agencies, if not the largest talent agency in the world. You're signed with Brillstein, a really amazing management company. How did that, when did that happen? When did you know that was the right time for you to get representation, and how did that come? What do you feel like led to that?
So what I'd honestly truly say is just hindsight 2020. Representation usually comes when it's supposed to. It's like, I honestly don't even recommend that people chase after it. It was less in both times. For CAA, it was literally, I had done my short at USC. It was putting it in festivals. Again, one of the reasons why to do festivals. I kept on putting it in. It did well, but then it was and I put in the bigger and smaller ones because I never knew who was going to be there. I would also put it into like little mixer events or like smaller ones where people are going to be there to drink and have fun, and it was less festival, like a showcase. And I did it because it's all about people just seeing your work. So for that side specifically, I put in another one. It had been 2 or 3 years since it had been done as full run, but I'd done it in there. There was an assistant at the time. They've gone on to do bigger things. They've gone up, but their assistant there, they saw it, really enjoyed it, said, "Hey, this is nice. Would you like to just come in and talk?" And I was like, "Well, of course I would love to." So they bring me in. I meet my agent, and we really just connected on a big level. That's a huge thing. You want to be able to connect with your reps. Like it really is a relationship that you have with these people, and you want someone that intrinsically truly believes you and chose you. Like, you don't even want to try and force someone to be your rep, because if they don't want you, they're not going to put in the real time. They're not. So in a lot of ways for that one, it was just me connecting with someone, and then they just always looked out for me in a big way. And I know that about them. On the flip side, for my manager, not only is she amazing, but she chased after me. She said, "Yo, you the one, come here." And I was like, "I'll do this and do that." But she said, "Yo, you." And I said, "Let's go." And I should have went with her sooner because she's so great. But in both times, it wasn't in any way me chasing after reps. If anything, I was constantly at festivals and doing programs to chase after funding, to get stuff made, because that's what I care about, trying to get things made, trying to get my art made. And it just so happened that as I continued to do work and get better and stay in the industry, folks noticed, and it led piece by piece there. So I really say to anyone that is trying or looking for reps or trying to get them, I would say don't even think about that, and just think about how can you continue to create and make things, because if you continue to do it and they continue to be good and get better, someone at some point will notice. You don't know how long it'll take, but someone usually will at some point.
And I often find, I wanted to bring up that question because it's so true that a lot of people believe, once I get to that moment where I have representation and I have an agent and I have a manager, things are going to get easier. But in fact, if I find from most creators, the hustle really never ends. I mean, you're just really always trying to push the ball up the hill with the next project, and you're really trying to make things happen, and you're taking general meetings all over town, and you're waiting for that click moment again,
Do you want me to jump in and say something on that?
Yeah,
like,
please.
It's I wish I could scream it to the hills. Like, getting your reps is just, it's not even a step. It's great when it happens, but you don't overnight, oh, bow, reps, everything changes. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen that way, but a lot of times your reps are there to be able to get you into rooms that you cannot truly get into yourself. And even when they put you in that room, it is still going to be you that's got to convince whoever that is to say, "I want that," or "I want them in my room," or it's still going to come down to you. So I say this with the understanding that reps really do not solve it. They make it a little bit easier, but they don't solve you getting there. Like, again, just to give an example, My reps were part of the reason why I made it to Hills. I'm so proud of being able to ride on Hills, but I still want to come and do this program under stars, underneath Filmmaker Los Angeles, because I knew that a piece of continuing to be in the industry is continue to get better, keep writing, be humble, push yourself more in the ways that you can. And that wasn't me, going to ask, oh, rep, should I do this? I'm just doing this regardless. And then hopefully, as I continue to do these things, I can hit my reps and say, hey, this has happened. Hey, this has happened. Hey, this has happened. So when something they see is like, oh, we really can finally use that to really, it's there. But the grind, and I'm not here to try and like say, oh, the hustle culture. I don't believe in that stuff. But what I am saying is you have to continue to keep working all the things you did to get your reps. You got to do that twice as much now with them. It never changes. So I hope that makes sense. And that is not me trying to be discouraging.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up because I just find so many people are still hustling to get into programs, are still hustling to get into festivals, even when they're at this point in their career where a lot of people assume they maybe don't need that support anymore, or they don't want that support anymore. So I think having this conversation around representation as it relates to film festivals, as it relates to programs, was really important to touch on. And so I want to go back to everybody and just circle back into really that moment of bridging yourself to the industry through festivals and programs again. And where we really left off was at the submission process. I want to talk about people getting down to maybe round 1 or round 2 of consideration. What happens there? And I'll start, I know, Kelly, it's a little bit different with TAC, the business conference at the animation festival. So Jandiz, I'll start with you. What, of course, taking into consideration conversations you may be having with someone as they're getting close to being selected, what are things that tip someone who's being considered one way or another in the conversation process? So now they've been pre-selected, maybe you have 10 spots, but you're interviewing 20 people over phone calls. What are some of the things that have either pushed somebody forward or turned you in the other direction and had somebody
because you can
drop
make
out?
so far with your work on the page or on the screen or your product, but at the end of the day, the humanity that you share with us face to face is really going to be the clincher. If we know that you are a good person, that you're going to be part of a cohort that's going to support people under you, or you're not going to be a heinous attentions grabber from those that have just a few more leaps above you, that you are going to be the one that is going to show up and volunteer to just, oh, could I just I'll be the person that writes on the board in the writer's room. You really want to be a supporting contribution to the cohort that you enter into. And you don't want to appear just aggressive or desperate. You also want to give, on a separate note, in these conversations where you're meeting managers or you're interviewing for writing supporting staff or staff job, they sometimes want to ask your other ideas that you have. And some people arrive and they're like, oh, I didn't know you were going to ask me questions about what other ideas or concepts or feelings that I like to write about. They think they're just going to show up and write about this one project that they submitted, and that's the end of it. Just have in the back of your head, if they ask me for more, what am I going to say? What else? The very typical question is, what else do you have? Because they want to see how wide the breadth of your voice extends. And if you're like, oh, I'm just working on this right now, if this is the first thing you've ever written and this is the first draft, I mean, congratulations to you that you got that far. You're probably pretty genius, but we also want to know what else. So that's what we're asking for in that interview. And that will be the clincher. If you have nothing else and you're a meanie, then we won't take you.
So BRIC asked for that quote of the day in the beginning. I think you just gave it. What else do you have? There it is. We can put that in the chat for sure. And then going over to Kelly, I know obviously it's a different process with the conference. And so I think to redirect the question a little bit for you is, I love what Jandiz touched on, which is how you show up, how you treat your peers, how you support your peers. Xavier, obviously, champion within our STARS program. And we have been so fortunate within our STARS program to have, over the last 2 years, 20 amazing cohort members who have been collaborative and shared resources. How does that, how do you see people either build bridges or burn bridges in the conference space? People who show up, who are doing business, who are selling, who are developing. What are some of the things you've seen over the years that you can share that might be helpful to know?
Yeah. Well, absolutely being prepared. And I just want to take a step back too, when you're applying to Sundance or you're applying to programs at the Ottawa Festival, just read the instructions, because I would say like 80% of our applicants get knocked out just because they haven't read the instructions. So be very careful. We have a one-on-one pitching session, like a speed meeting session, and you'd be surprised how many people go into these sessions without really knowing who they're pitching to. So you got to do your homework, you got to read up about these people. If you have a project, what audience is it for? You really have to think about that and plan it out, and just do your homework is what I would say.
And Xavier, for you, how do you show up prepared? How do you come prepared? What's the Bible of preparedness look like in Xavier's world?
I mean, there's so many different ways for so many different things. I don't even know where to even begin on terms of preparedness, but usually I really recommend to everyone here, like, if it's specifically a pitch, sit down, write out your entire pitch, write it out, see what it actually looks like, say it back, hear it. You would be surprised, like, oh, I'm gonna just say the things and it'll be 3 minutes. You look, it's gonna be like 10 because you really didn't like sit down and cater it in the same way you would write a script. You should do that. On the flip side, this is something I talk to all of my students as I'm teaching them. I say all of them have to do it, because every single one of these programs, every single one of these film schools, all of them, they all ask for the same thing. Almost every single one of these places is going to ask for a narrative or personal statement at all times. And more often than not, a narrative or personal statement, that is the time and the place where you can really tell a story about yourself, dig into who you are, why it matters, why it cares. And I need more people truly to take that seriously. Yes, show your stuff. You could go into these programs and be someone who's done a whole bunch of things, but if you don't have the ability to sit down, be self-aware, and really dig into who you are, why is it that you want to write, why is it that you're putting this together, then you're gonna have a really hard time. And it's not easy really talking about yourself. And to add into what Kelly said, I also say to everyone here, if you want to be a writer, if you say you want to be a writer, you gotta write. Like, really, when both of them said, like, oh, both Kelly and Jenna said, do you have something else? And folks like, what? Like, how can you talk about yourself being a writer and you haven't written? Look, just alone, I sit down every single year and I try to write at least 2 things, maybe a feature and at least a pilot. Even if it's just one draft I do of it, it's because I want something tangible. But that also helps me to get better as a writer. There's no other way to elevate yourself other than to just write and do it more. And that's one of the reasons why I continue to go into programs. One of the reasons why I'm in your program, because it matters so much to continue to do that, and people notice when you do it as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, Jandiz, we saw the note in the chat. Thank you for replying to that. It's definitely it definitely can be challenging to do programs when you have a full-time job, but I will say programs try to be as accommodating as they possibly can be with someone's schedule. Xavier, I know we had a little bit of that with participants in our STARS program this year. People are teaching. We had several professors actually, including Xavier, teaching at film schools. We have people with other full-time jobs, so we do try to work around those time conflicts. And oftentimes, just to go a little bit deeper into that, oftentimes we don't even know the full schedule until several weeks before in stone, because oftentimes we're waiting for people from the industry and their schedules to firm up to make themselves available for the participants. So it can, I don't know how it works at Sundance, Jandiz, but the schedule I feel tends to probably bounce around a little bit and require a little bit of flexibility. So we have 9 minutes left, which is not a lot of time. So if anybody has questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll do my best to get to them. The question that I want to wrap up for me, that I feel is really important for everybody is, you know, these relationships, as you participate in a festival, as you participate in a program. Xavier, we met when you were at USC Film School 7 years ago. Kelly, we hadn't met, but I had met your colleague Tom in the Dominican Republic at a film festival almost 2 years ago now. Jandiz, we've known each other for probably 11 plus years since you were at NBC. How do you maintain these relationships with a festival or a program? What's appropriate? How can you stay in touch with someone and keep somebody up to date about what you're doing, or ask them for introductions or assistance or support without being a pest and maintaining a relationship in a healthy way? Does anybody have thoughts or parting advice that you would share in regards to just leaning into those relationships and maintaining them after you've participated in a program or a festival?
I mean, I think it's important, if you can, if it's within your means, to try and go to as many industry events as you can, and reconnect with people on a casual level, you know, at networking events, parties and screenings, you know, and let things happen that way, you know, as much as you can. Just even if they see you at an event, just, you know, you'll stick in their mind a bit more if you're hanging out in places where they are.
What I can jump in from here is what I'll say, and what I've learned to do is invite them to things. If you have stuff happening, especially films and stuff you're doing, it's okay to send an email, like, you know, even a couple of months or like 6 months, you send one email, just let them know what's going on with you. Especially what I usually try to do is whenever I have some big news or something really cool that happens, then I'll be like, hey, check out what I'm doing, and see if that kind of sparks up a conversation from there. But you'd be surprised, so long as you're not like emailing a person every month or every week, or just, hey, so long as you're not doing something like that. If it's over a period of time, if you've been in one of the programs, you've been in one of the fellowships, you've been in the film fest, they want to hear from you, especially when you have done awesome things, no matter how big or small it is. So just, you know, make sure that it's just not super frequent, because what I promise you, if you let them know little by little, if the day ever comes when they want to say something back to you, they will. And they'll appreciate the fact that you weren't forceful about it, because like I said before, these people want to help you, but they can't just do it. It never works like that. And that's why you have to keep up these relationships and continue to show them that you're working.
Incredible advice. And then Jandiz, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think that timing is key. And again, we're talking about getting into all these programs. When you meet someone in real life and you want to make a connection that you hope will continue into a lasting relationship, it's hopefully at a point where you have something to brag about, so that you could say when you meet them, oh my gosh, Larry, nice to meet you. I'm such a fan of the STARS program. I just got a blah, 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 blah. And you can drop a little hint at that first meeting that says, I have achieved, I have recognition and notability behind me, or I just completed this thing. Hopefully you have some braggable, like you applied and got into something. Maybe you're graduating from a university or whatever. So that says to the person, I'm not just showing up with my hands open, waiting for the handout. I have something to offer you. I have been, I don't want to say validated, but I have people that will vouch for me. And then when you say that, you don't come across as just like an empty vessel that's like arriving with zero understanding. So I would wait and not approach people at all until you have something valuable to offer them first. And then at that point, people will invite you. If someone says to me like, oh, I just graduated from something, my short just got into something, I just got into Series Fest, and they say that to me, then I will immediately be like, wow, I would like to read that. I would like to see that. Would you send it to me? And then that is the invitation now. So I would think about it as a moment to just say, what do I have to offer first before you approach this as, what can I get out of that contact? Because that's very abrasive, comes across as opportunist, and it's a real turnoff.
Yeah,
So be mindful.
I love what you and Xavier shared in regards to your opinions on that, because I find so often it's so nice and refreshing to hear from someone with just an update, not an ask, right? Hey, here's what I've been up to. I hope you've been well. I love seeing what you're doing at New Filmmakers. I'm working on my next short. I can't wait to share it with you once it's done. And those kind of emails give me that moment that Xavier spoke about, which is they will come to you with something when the time is right. I think you said, Xavier, I think you said when they have something, they're going to come to you. And I feel that's always what helps me keep somebody top of mind, is just getting those updates, knowing what they're up to, knowing what they've been working on, knowing what short they just made, knowing what other program they got into. Because then when I'm having a conversation with a studio or a network and they say, hey, we're looking for an emerging trans Latina director or writer, do you have anyone? I'm like thinking of them first, right? They've been emailing me. I've been getting updates about what they're doing. So I always find that to be really helpful. We have 3 minutes left. We did have a question, I believe, from Anna in the Q&A. And Anna is working at a women's organization, I believe Women in Film at her university. And she's wondering about approaching panelists and sponsors for programs or festivals. I think we'll focus on the panelist part of that question. Is there a way in which you've had success, any of you, in approaching people to sit on panels or participate in Q&A discussions?
Well, that's something, like we try to attend as many events as we can, like BRIC Summit. You see someone who's an outstanding speaker and you can see them, you can approach them, you have something to talk about. That's usually the best way to meet new people and potential panelists.
All right, we got 1 minute left. Jandiz?
I want to challenge you to explore why you are approaching people. If you're just saying like, oh, I'll just take anybody, like that's just not going to service you. So be very targeted in who you're inviting. Obviously, it sounds like your women's program would love a woman director or a woman who just had something screen at maybe a festival that was in your home state. I would open up with a cold like DM and just say, I loved your film. Like, why do you want this person? Tell them why you believe they're valuable. Applaud them, congratulate them, offer them an award. Maybe you want to honor them and make them the center of attention of this conversation. They will be so touched and hopefully altruistic and then available to want to be sharing. So I would just say, again, offer them what you think you can give and tell them how valuable their time will be.
And on that note of applause and time, we are at time, and I do want to give everybody on the panel an applause. You were all amazing. Thank you so much for giving up part of your Saturday to be with us. And I also want to thank everybody in the audience for being here to support the BRIC Foundation and to support the BRIC Summit. We're so happy to be able to give these kind of opportunities. We hope you have an amazing rest of the day. It's 2 o'clock, so we do have to go. But thank you so much, everyone, and I hope everyone found this to be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
having us in here. Appreciate it.